questions to the Premier. Premier, surgery wait times in Ontario have reached catastrophic levels. Last week, Ottawa resident Ruth McKenzie witnessed firsthand your government's health care failures when her surgery was cancelled moments before going under the knife. And a question for the Premier is, does she think it's acceptable to cancel surgeries moments before scheduled surgeries to take place? Good question.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know the specifics of that situation, and I'm sure that the member opposite will share it with the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care. But, Mr. Speaker, again, I hope that this concern that the member opposite is expressing will encourage him to vote for the budget, Mr. Speaker, in which we have included a significant investment, $822 million, Mr. Speaker, to hospitals, including, Mr. Speaker, more funding for home care, more funding for mental health care, Mr. Speaker. I hope that this member sees that it is imperative that we continue to invest in our health care system. Every year, Mr. Speaker, we have included and increased funding to our hospitals, to home care, to health care across the province, Mr. Speaker. But we recognize that there is more that we need to do. So I hope the member opposite will be supporting us as we bring forward our budgetary changes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. Back to the Premier. Speaker, it's interesting the Premier answers that question as such, considering it was her government who froze hospital funding for 5 years. It's her government that attacked our doctors. It's her government that built the infrastructure of bureaucracy, reducing the funds reaching our patients in the front lines. Mr. Speaker, this government has been a failure in managing health care and is only promising the world as a last-minute game in order to gain votes. Mr. Speaker, this is the second time the surgery for Mrs. McKenzie has been cancelled because of this government's failures. Last month it was cancelled because of overcrowding in the hospital because the government failed in supporting the hospitals during the flu season. 2 cancelled surgeries in 1 month, but it's becoming the norm in this province. Last month, a London patient had to have their bypass surgery cancelled at the last moment for the 4th time. It's unacceptable the level of care this government is providing the people of Ontario. Will the minister call the Ottawa hospital and ask that that surgery rescheduled ASAP?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, I don't know the specifics of the individual case that the member opposite is raising, but I know that he will share that information with the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care. But it's interesting, Mr. Speaker, what the member opposite said about the budgets from year to year, Mr. Speaker. We have increased funding every year to hospitals and across the healthcare system, Mr. Speaker. And it's interesting that an organization like the Fraser Institute, Mr. Speaker, which I think the member opposite can agree is not exactly an organization that is friendly to our government, but the Fraser Institute has joined with CIHI, Mr. Speaker, the Wait Times Alliance. They have all agreed that Ontario is at the very top, the best for wait times in this country, Mr. Speaker. So, that is the reality. That's the truth of the situation, that we are leading the country in terms of wait times, Mr. Speaker. But even with that, we recognize that there is more that we can do. And again, I call on the member opposite to support the budget, because in that budget is a significant increase in funding specifically to hospitals as well as to mental health and to home care, Mr. Speaker.